Good Wednesday evening, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center tracking a severe thunderstorm warning in play here for areas of Lee County, Georgia, as well as Terrell County, and that goes into effect here until about 8:30 or so. As you're hearing these beeps, that's for severe weather in Wisconsin, which we'll get to in a moment. And also, just as I was getting ready to come on here, since we started the stream, another severe thunderstorm warning in South Georgia has been issued here. This one is for parts of, it looks like here, they look over to the chat session, Clay and Quitman counties in Georgia until 8:45 p.m. So some pretty long fused severe thunderstorm warnings in our local area now, just starting to get issued here as things have taken a while to kind of come together in our covered area. And I mean, so you look toward North Florida, nothing's developed here, and it may end up staying that way as we look ahead toward the timeline, as there's kind of just some limited areas here that we've seen the development in. As you get further up into where Georgia, though, it's a lot more widespread, that development, with many warning polygons on the board here. But in terms of our covered area, just a small chunk of it starting to see some severe weather warnings being issued. So let's dive in here. This storm near Leesburg, you can see here maybe some hail being detected on the Doppler radar. Not too big at this moment, maybe a little bit more indicative of that a few moments ago, but still a strong to severe storm, potentially capable of producing 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail there. As we're looking toward Dawson, Leesburg, Smithville, Sasser, you have Jordan Place in there, Municipal Airport there in Dawson, Graves, Olivers, Mills. So just kind of giving you guys an idea of where this warning does cover here, what areas it does encompass. And then as we look off toward areas here further west, a warning with this storm moving west at 10, parts of Henry County in Alabama, but then Clay County and Quitman County in Georgia here. So you have the potential for some 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and nickel-sized hail in here. So nothing overwhelming, but just watching these storms and kind of with a combination of watching these storms here, what we saw yesterday, the heat, and what's going on up in Wisconsin, thought it would be a good idea to jump on here. We didn't turn the logo red because this isn't a situation where we're going to be on for a really long time for things in Wisconsin here. We're seemingly getting closer toward some of that kind of moving away from that state here, but we'll go ahead and zoom in here right now. You can see down to the south, we do have some of this action further west in the state, but what I'm talking about moving away from the state is where we have the action here north of Green Bay. We even had a confirmed tornado here as we were looking a little while ago there. Observed tornado touchdown there in one of the communities there, according to a trained weather spotter. So right now there's 4 tornado warnings in this state, 3 of them getting close to moving out of Wisconsin here. You see parts of Michigan under tornado watch now. This is kind of, I guess, a forgotten part of Michigan in some ways. Here as we look up there, this goes until about 1 a.m. Eastern time as we look up toward the central and eastern Michigan Upper Peninsula. And then as we look here, you see parts of Wisconsin and Iowa, and we do still have some action there that could be headed closer toward Milwaukee. Still a tornado watch in play there, so still got to be careful. And we're getting reports in a lot of tree and power line issues, and there was potentially a destructive tornado that touched down here further off west in the state earlier on, right when we were starting to get our first tornado warning to come out here a couple of hours ago. It really had a storm tighten up, and it may have very well produced a significant tornado based on radar indications there. Wasn't in a really highly populated area, but still it was around some communities there in that state as we were looking there, kind of in between some the bigger areas, but still it was close there, maybe across an interstate. Not really sure, kind of still early in the stages in terms of getting reports there. It seems like there has been some damage though, but definitely had to have been based on the radar debris signature that we were seeing earlier on there. But again, right now we have 4 tornado warnings in play here right now in progress, and the state is here beeping. That's the Green Bay Weather Service chat I have up right now just to keep an eye on things. I was getting kind of concerned there about Green Bay a few minutes ago, so I pulled that up. It seems like some of this action definitely did go through town here, probably knocking out some power. There was a gust of 59 there at the official National Weather Service observation site, and the tornado warning situation further up there. Right now, again, you see even a purple box, which is indicative of a confirmed tornado earlier on It was 9 miles northeast there of the McCaslin Mountain Natural Area. But now it looks like it's back down to radar indicated, but still, once you have a debris signature, of course, that means something is in progress doing damage, and I mean, somebody could be getting hurt. As you look here, though, we're actually now down to 3 tornado warnings. We had about 9, 10 tornado warnings a little while ago here, but still, 3 is pretty significant for this state here. Something you don't see too often. You see the contrast of the air masses, though, to some extent here. And we'll even put our wind directions on here to kind of see what's going on here. Just in a unique environment for this action to get going here. And the tornado watches in place. I just took those off. We'll get back down to our local area right now, though. Again, we have 2 warnings in play. These aren't necessarily overwhelming, but we gotta watch them. We'll zoom in on those in just a moment a little closer, but let's go over to the Green Bay radar site. We will see how we had some of this stronger wind push through very quickly. I tweeted about it at Cloud Casey on Twitter a little while ago, giving a little heads up there for those folks around Green Bay. You can see here, this was the view from about 15-20 minutes ago. We had 60-70-mile-an-hour winds on radar, and I guess confirmed to 59. And you can see how that brighter yellow now pushing on off some of that there. Getting over the water, but continuing to watch here. We do have some tornado warnings here in play. These rotations aren't really robust and not near as robust as that one we were tracking earlier on in that state. I mean, just kind of looking back at some things. I mean, we were watching carefully here how things were going as a La Crosse Weather Service office that was really keeping tabs on that storm that I'm referencing earlier on. Further west in the state there, just checking back some of the old warnings. There was a PDS tornado warning there around Juneau, Adams, and Monroe counties, if you're familiar with those. I just don't want to leave you hanging when I talk about something like that. I want to kind of give you guys a range of where we had one of the PDS threat areas noted by the Weather Service that was out there. Further in the state of La Crosse Weather Service office issued a PDS warning earlier. I retweeted one of those out as we were looking there toward those areas, toward Juneau, Adams, and Monroe counties. Spotter and radar confirmed. So I know we saw some damage. The debris signature that was so apparent. Not what we want to see, obviously. But as we look right now, things here aren't necessarily as significant. But still, we have some strong and severe weather moving through Madison, Wisconsin right now. 60-mile-an-hour wind. That's a standard warning for us, but still definitely could knock out power here. I mean, anywhere. But these areas don't get severe weather as much as we do here in North Florida and South Georgia. So could be a little bit bigger event for them in some regard. As we look here, South Central Wisconsin, another 60-mile-an-hour warning. Here, 60-mile-an-hour warning out of the Milwaukee Sullivan office. And then Oshkosh there, 60-mile-an-hour winds. So these are more standard type of warnings than what we were seeing earlier. But that warning for areas there as we look off from Green Bay is for 70-mile-an-hour winds. It was for 80. One of those was earlier on, and radar was still even higher than that. And some of the velocity, some of those radio velocity values. So just kind of interesting to see here. Again, we're watching that, but let me go ahead and get us down here toward our neck of the woods. We'll go ahead and switch on over here toward our local viewpoint. Again, we have the 2 warnings. You see in North Florida, I don't think there's any rain at all. I'm looking real closely. I did not see one shower here in North Florida. And but in South Georgia, things have erupted here. And then we have our GOES satellite on. Again, you hear this beeping. That's out of the Green Bay office. I think I'm going to close that chat out for now, just not to confuse anybody. But we're going to go ahead, of course, and keep tabs on the Tallahassee Weather Service office information that we're getting out of our local there at the Love Building on the Florida State campus. But you do see here to go to satellite. This is a zoomed in view. You see all that eruption further north. It's a little reminiscent of yesterday, but this accent here right now may end up being more of an issue here further off toward the west. Versus here toward the Big Bend. We'll just wait and see. It's really, really tricky. I mean, I sent something out last night from a meteorologist in Charlotte, North Carolina, just showing how that system that affected our area yesterday came from Chicago, and that really does not happen around here very often. I don't remember anything quite like that here. Just thinking back, it's something that was bizarre in terms of that overall path going toward West Virginia and then diving back around there, just the overall pressure pattern. But let me go ahead and show you here our slight risk is in play here for Tallahassee, for Live Oak, for areas there, Homerville, under that as well, getting further off toward the east, but really may end up being an issue, bigger issue out toward the west here. So we'll continue to track things. I know looking on here right now, the Doppler Radar, and we'll pull on our tornado parameters. There's not going to be any here. The reason I have that up first is for Wisconsin, but the energy values are here, not quite maybe as widespread with those 4,000 type joule per kilogram values, but we saw that here yesterday, and we do see some of that in Alabama, and that could be an issue there for Alabama based on just what I'm seeing here. Definitely could end up being an issue for those folks. Based on seeing all these warnings pop up out of the Peachtree City office here over the last little bit. So a unique situation. I do have our radar pulled up here, our full Rutger radar, and we'll see some of these velocity signatures. Now, they're not overwhelming, and I'm thinking here these storms are probably marginal on the severe side because I know some of our signatures weren't that great yesterday, but that was a different type of event with a line like it was organized. It was able to send that wind down. Even if we weren't really getting a severe gust, it was still knocking down trees, causing some power outages. Pretty significant event there to start off with, a marginal risk just for some of the Georgia counties, most of them, but to end up seeing a slight risk get down to Florida, and then end up seeing just so many. I mean, I don't remember that many wind reports around here from an event, here this time of year in a while. I might even show that to you, the SBC graphic, in just a little bit. I might just cut over to the browser or something like that to show you guys. But as you look here, you can see what we're dealing with right now. These storms are more isolated. These are more of your typical summertime storms. But again, coming on because we also have that heat threat too. We have heat advisory conditions lasting here as we get toward the weekend and probably even into next week here, it looks like. You just really got to be taking precaution in terms of that heat. I mean, we'll switch back over to the current temperature graphic right now. You see all these readings in the 90s still. I mean, we're almost at 8 o'clock at night. I'm just going to look behind me real quick at the thermometer. It looks like we're still here in this dark area as we get very late. Still about 90 degrees or so here as we get close to 8 o'clock. So that is indicative of how warm things are. And those heat index values here into the triple digits still. And the temperature is just going to keep getting warmer here as we've shown you in some of our forecast information. I mean, I had 98 in there when I did the forecast yesterday and our full update there on all these different platforms. And we'll just kind of reevaluate things, see if we need to go even higher with that. It's not out of the question. These temperatures are very warm, very excessive here. And we haven't had one of these yet, but at some point might end up having an excessive heat warning issue for parts of our area here. And that didn't happen too often. It happened last year for some zones, but we have to go back about 10 years, I believe, for like the Jacksonville office issuing some of those type of alerts as we get there looking in history. I was trying to look that up last year. I'm just doing it off the top of my head. I feel like it was 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. We had some of that. It was a pretty big deal. So we'll just have to be really careful. Now that earlier today, and that heat, you can definitely feel the difference there with that heat. It makes it just hard to be outside for an extended period to do too much work because it really kind of slows you down there. Just got to be really careful, drink plenty of water. But I'm going to go ahead and show you some other things here. It'll take me just a second here, but I'm going to get that SBC graphic together. I wanted to show you guys what we're talking about in terms of all those wind reports yesterday. I mean, we had a risk here that was actually more slated maybe for stuff toward the Carolinas. I might actually show you guys. And it's just, it shows you how tough forecasting is what I'm going to go ahead and say here in a few moments. I want to get that together. I think that'd be a good graphic to show here. Just kind of, I mean, everybody does a great job here in the Weather Enterprise, but what I'm going to say is the verification here in a moment. I was looking for this yesterday. It wasn't out at that point, but I'm just going to go ahead and show it to you guys live on the air here in about 30 seconds or so. It really kind of tells the weather story about how things can be tricky sometimes. So let me go ahead and show you guys that. We have it up on the browser now, so let me go ahead and just go straight to it. And it's not framed perfectly, but you kind of get the idea here. You can kind of see what we're talking about. All these wind reports, the outlook was for stuff maybe for North Carolina, Virginia. This is the first outlook there, looking back really on that Tuesday. But you see all these wind reports ended up getting clustered to the south. In fact, let me go ahead and zoom in just a little bit here. I know we don't generally do it like this, but I didn't have this ready. Didn't know if we were going to have to come on or not. But you can kind of just see here. all these wind reports down toward the Big Bend. It just happens like this sometimes. Things don't develop exactly like the forecast models say. The HRRR finally picked up on it later on, but really earlier on, not necessarily seeing that threat here to get this many wind reports there toward the Big Bend. This is yesterday, and today so far, we have a slight risk. We haven't seen much, but I just got to always remain on the side of caution here with the weather scenarios. So with this excessive heat, I mean, it's already an unusual pattern that we're dealing with here. Already an unusual pattern that we're dealing with for sure as we look toward the area. And that can sometimes mess with the forecast models as well, because we're dealing with something that you don't generally see. So again, we're going to zoom back in. We have a couple warnings here right now in South Georgia. We had the one where we're getting ready to come on, and we got a second warning issued after that. The one there toward Leesburg, you see here, seeing some maybe hail in there. We saw some velocity values. They weren't all that impressive, but you never know. We could get a quick burst of wind to the surface, something like that here. As we look toward Lee County, you can see here some greens and reds, but these are not really impressive, and it's not in a line formation like what we saw yesterday. So probably more of a quick burst of wind versus that broad wind pattern where we get so many trees knocked down like we ended up seeing yesterday. But you can see here north of Fort Gaines in Clay County, Georgia. This looks a little more impressive. We're seeing areas of wind about 46, and then it kind of goes away. You see it come up, come down again. That latest scan there, as we kind of see, I'll back this up to see what road this is. County Road 62 is where we're seeing some of the stronger wind just a moment ago here. Some of the brighter colors kind of indicating that. I'll kind of put my mouse right there. That's what we're talking about. Lindsay Boulevard in there as well. We're getting maybe some stronger wind according to the Doppler Radar algorithms. So let me go ahead now and pop back up our other radar view here. We'll zoom back out. Again, not necessarily always staying on the air with storms like this time of year, based on how they've been kind of playing things this year with these afternoon storms, but because of what we saw yesterday, because of the heat, because of what's going on in Wisconsin, I'll stay with this at least a little while longer. We may wrap it up here pretty soon, but we'll go ahead and stay on a little while because people kind of have an interest in what's going on in the weather situation right now. Again, don't think what's going on in Wisconsin is enough really to turn our logo red, because a lot of these tornado warnings have been more on the radar indicated side here. The first one or so was more concerning. We do have 2 tornado warnings in the state. Now we actually have one further south. This is a more populated area, I would think. So let me go ahead and show you here what we're talking about. Let me go ahead and go down here, and we do see here just near Madison now, not far from UW-Madison there, University of Wisconsin. We have now some rotation here near Sun Prairie, and that could be coming up there near Reeseville and Beaver Dam. So we'll have to kind of keep our eyes on that here for sure. I know I'm just checking some different things behind the scenes here, trying to give you guys the latest information to protect you, your friends, and your family. In fact, I do want to go to the Doppler Radar up there. We have a TVS signature on that, and there's a tornado watch in play. I know the threat again isn't as high down here necessarily, but you see there's a moderate risk in play, maybe more for the wind. The tornado threat's an enhanced risk here as we get out in this area. Not quite at 15%. That's kind of already been left behind at this point. It's really the threat pretty much ended over the 15% tornado risk area. But again, continuing to watch things. I have that radar pulled up here. You see some velocity values. There's radial velocity values here, indicative of some rotation. It looks like it's kind of not showing up right where the TVS is, where I'm looking and seeing the strongest rotation. I see more maybe towards Sun Prairie, but you could say maybe there's a couple of different areas in there actually with this type of line formation. So nothing overwhelming, but still around Reeseville, Wisconsin. You see Juneau there. We have to just be careful here. Let me go ahead and see. We do have the storms behind it, so you never know. We could still get some inflow into it, and that could cause it to spin because there's nothing really directly to the south here. But hopefully we're not able to get the spin to sustain itself, but you never know, and that's why there's a tornado watch in play. Still a pretty big deal. I'm just when I say we're not turning the logo red, I just don't want to kind of confuse people, honestly, with our local weather too. When we have local severe situations it kind of may get a little confusing. You see the logo red, and we're focusing on that. And we have local warnings here, and the threat may have already peaked out in some regard in terms of the highest tornado potential. So a little bit tricky here. I want to make sure we're focusing on our local area here too, because we have so many people that watch us here in North Florida, South Georgia. I don't want to get you guys confused about what's going on here in terms of maybe having that logo red, unless it's something like what we saw in Kentucky last year. That was pretty obvious based on some analogs. But as we'll go ahead and switch back on over now to some of our other modes. It's now 8 o'clock Eastern Time. A meteorologist, Casey Cloud, at 7 Central, by the way, if you are watching from Wisconsin. And of course, always important as you're looking up there in Wisconsin, maybe to watch those local affiliates. They'll have more extended coverage. But we're now getting a report in Quitman County, a gust of 40 miles an hour at 7:45 around Rick's Place there on a UGA Mesonet site near the Georgetown area. So getting some stronger wind, nothing overwhelming, but just got to keep on watching these warnings, by the way, just so you know. One for Leesburg. The storm's not moving very fast. This warning goes to 8:30. And then as we look further on off here, other warning here to about 8:45 or so, getting us into southeastern Alabama, which would be in the central time zone. So that's 7:45 Central as we get over there toward Henry County, Alabama, outside of a covered area. But these storms aren't maybe as impressive as we're seeing up toward the Grange, or this storm here looks pretty nasty near areas around Ellaville. Buena Vista there. You can see here Phoenix City. We have a hail report there around Crawford. There in Russell County, golf ball size. It's a pretty nasty storm there. You kind of get the idea. It seems like we've had more of the accent build a little north generally of our area. You see the colder cloud tops here on the infrared satellite. And then we'll see if we have much left in the visible. It's getting pretty late here in terms of that sunset coming up soon. Kind of starting to get dark, but there's definitely still some sunlight out there at this point. You can still see some of those cloud tops here as we're looking. It looks like pretty nasty one, even just east of Troy, between, I guess you could say, between Troy and Eufaula there. And you're seeing some other accent. I mean, got to keep in mind that some of this accent further east is not going to be seen easily because we're getting that sun to go down here. As you look to the west, you can kind of make them out a little bit better. I'll back this up a few frames here and kind of see. You can kind of make them out a little bit better, maybe toward Dawson there, toward Leesburg. Some of those cloud tops, this is from just a little while ago. So just continuing to watch things here with the satellite, with the radar, trying to keep you guys abreast of the situation. Again, you see our surface-based Cape values. Some of these more towards southern Alabama, or toward that 4,000, 5,000 joules per kilogram. I know it's really technical. A lot of you guys, I mean, aren't necessarily going to focus on that. It's not something that gets talked about on TV too much, but as we have that ability, it kind of shows you a little bit of the meteorology behind what we see storms form and how they're able to kind of mature based on the atmosphere they're in. When we have the higher values here, that means you have more energy here for the storms to be able to do what they do here, and that is potentially produce some severe damage. So severe weather damage, I'm talking about 60-mile-an-hour winds, things like that. But again, let me go ahead and go up toward the north here. We have 2 tornado warnings in play right now. You saw how we're kind of leaving the moderate wind risk behind, but we still have a moderate tornado risk, but we still are in the moderate wind risk here. As you can see here, areas there around Madison under that moderate wind risk here. I know we had some wind dangers back toward Fort Wayne, Indiana on Monday night. They had a gust of nearly 100 miles an hour here toward Fort Wayne, Indiana. Now, this time of year, things can get pretty nasty in that regard. As we continue here with things, watching different parameters. Some of your tornado parameters really are pushing more to the north, it looks like, but we still have some things going on in the atmosphere that would lend itself to maybe some tornadic development further south. But we have definitely seen those parameters that look more favorable here kind of get up more toward areas there in northern parts of Wisconsin, and that's why the risk has been drawn like it has been here. As we're watching things, our tornado risk, you can see how things were really in play from around La Crosse up there, south there, Wausau, and again, you're seeing some of this down more than 10% risk. We still could have a strong tornado in here. not completely out of the question. Milwaukee, not under that. And by the way, I know a lot of meteorologists in Milwaukee right now for the AMS Broadcasters Conference. So definitely kind of an interesting situation in that regard as well. People from there, meteorologists, many of them, keeping an eye on the situation off toward the west. We'll see if they get into some type of severe weather situation. Maybe even a quick spin of tornado, not out of the question there. But the bigger threat is definitely, as you see here, further to the north. We'll continue to watch things with the Doppler here, continuing to keep you guys advised. Let me get back here toward some of this action though. Locally, that's your wind risk. Hail risk here, not as big as it was initially, 5%, and then you don't see a tornado risk here, but your wind risk is 15%. That's what has driven this slight risk here today. Again, you're probably wondering what's going on in Tallahassee very often because we haven't seen one rain shower really develop down there. We've just seen things kind of not really get their act together there based on the overall setup that we're dealing with. This 12-hour rainfall, nothing. I mean, compared to yesterday, I have a slight risk coming kind of a little bit later on because we'll drops from the north. Then today, things just are having a tough time developing in 90% of our area. But we do have a few counties under warnings right now in our far northwestern zones. And that's one of the reasons we're on the air right now. It drove us to come on here. As you're looking here toward areas that are west of Leesburg. They dropped Lee County from the warning now, but they're still keeping the warning going for Terrell County. So we have Dawson, Sasser over there. As I move the map up further, you'll be able to see here. We also have a Brownwood, Bridges Crossroad, over toward it looks like Oliver's Mill, Oakville. You can see Dawson Municipal Airport. That's another spot that's in there in the text of the warning. So severe thunderstorm warning here with a severe thunderstorm near Dawson. Not really impressive, but you just never know what can happen. Again, not as impressive what we saw yesterday. These are more of typical pulse storms here as we look versus what we saw yesterday, that accident, that MCS, that mesoscale convective system coming on down there from north and then kind of making that turn. I can't show it to you on air, but it is on my Twitter account there and on Facebook. I shared that yesterday there. Kind of giving you guys an idea of what happened there with that overall scenario, how things were coming together. Just incredible when you think about it. Just how things came together and then kind of re-sparked off. We had those energy values up. We had that sunshine, and then that came in, and it really even got in terms of the parameters here. I took advantage of those, and we ended up having many reports, as I said a few moments ago, with that graphic there from the SPC. Again, that's just how things happen sometimes. So meteorology is not anything that you can ever predict 100%. We did think there would be a lower end severe weather risk yesterday for the Georgia counties, but again, things really sunk down toward Tallahassee and caused quite a few power outages and just something the high-res models between the heat and the unusual movement there with the overall pressure pattern. It's not something that happens that often. The model data didn't really handle that very good until later on in the game. But as we go ahead and get back down here toward southwestern Georgia right now, you see here these wind patterns, and not that impressive. But you just never know here. We did get a gust of 40 at an area there around Georgetown and Georgia toward Quitman County. That was there around 7:45. Watching that, you see a significant weather advisory that initially issued here for some of this action. Quickly upgraded to a severe thunderstorm warning though, and now Lee County out of it, but Dawson and Terrell County still with this threat. I know I have the Maxwell radar up now, trying to give you a little bit different perspective. We're looking kind of high up. So I may want to switch back over toward another viewpoint here. So we're just continuing to keep you guys up to date. Let me go ahead and show you here everything that's happening on the Doppler locally, that tri-state view. You see a little bit of southeast Alabama in there. Then we've had some storms toward Tampa develop. You see how North Central Florida, you're wondering, why am I on? There's not one shower, not one lightning strike. That's just how things go. And we're technically under a marginal risk of severe weather. I'm going to see what the latest model guidance is showing because I haven't had the chance to take it out over the last little bit just since I've been watching some of these storms in real time. So I'm going to take a few things off here. We'll do this together, see if it's picking up on anything now that we do have some of that action in Georgia, at least here. So I've taken everything off. There are some warnings in play. I'm just going to go ahead and load our model guidance on here. and set it to about 8 o'clock, and then we'll go from there. So you're not even seeing it develop the stuff in Georgia. The model's still struggling. The HRRR really still struggling. Models, really, all of them struggle with this type of scenario. But let me go ahead and put on our forecast model super. Just so you know, we're looking at a model here. It's still in the axis further north. So I want to zoom this out just see what it does with it here. I would suspect, based on what we were looking at, it would push it more into Alabama. But let's just see here. We'll watch it together. The sun is going to go down here pretty soon. So that's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Yeah, you see most of that pushing on down there in Alabama, and not developing it quite as far south as it's actually developed. But you see that's kind of what it's doing with it, and not really getting anything toward north central Florida. You see if I back up a little, you see a few little sprinkles. And that's about it. I went 50% today because the models, even though we had a slight risk, generally I go higher than that with a slight risk for much of our area. But the models weren't really lasting on, and you just never know. And it ended up being a day where we didn't get, or I'm going to get 50% coverage for sure. But let's go ahead and see the warnings we do have in play right now. We're going to go ahead and say here, and let me take our forecast model. I don't want to confuse anybody either as we pull this out. This is current data now. It's just a one-man band, so sometimes I'll leave things up because just trying to keep you guys up to date here on the latest. But this is the current viewpoint right now here at about 8:11 on this Wednesday, June 15th, 2022. Look at all these warnings here. West of Macon now, I mean, those are overlapping like crazy. They're around the grains. I mean, you see some of these for 60-mile-an-hour wind, inside hail. Just kind of clicking on them one by one here. I have it on our mode where it's not going to distinguish the different type of wind threats here. Just kind of give us the broad view. You see a storm there, a severe storm northwest of Americus. We don't cover that area. There's some there to where the Albany does. That market does cover those areas toward Americus, but we don't cover that area there. Just to kind of give you reference. You can kind of see it's actually just northwest of Americus with the actual polygon, not even including their county there. But again, going to continue to watch. That is moving off toward the southwest at 30, so it could be something that might kind of slip down towards Stewart and Webster counties here over the next little bit. Again, not in our covered area, but they are within the Albany television market that's set aside there. The stations cover, but again, gonna continue to watch things. I know sometimes the DMAs don't show up, but they do cover Stewart and Webster there in Albany. As we go ahead and show you there, zoom on out, you can kind of see here new warning popping up in southern Alabama for Barber County now until 8 o'clock Central Time here. We have a storm that has some lightning in it, and then there'll be some of that wind and quarter-size hail potential as it acts, and will be spreading more that way. Here you see Atlanta Metro has been missing out. Just kind of a lot of west central Georgia here, really with that accent there for sure. I mean, it's something that are watching some of the Atlanta markets in there, but that's also some of the Columbus market's responsibility as well. So again, gonna continue to watch here. We're at 8:13 now with the coverage. I might wrap it up pretty soon. Just kind of seeing what those storms do there. We will give you another update on Wisconsin. Let me go ahead and see here what's happening within the Doppler Radar technology. Not much in terms of rotation at all there as we get towards Sun Prairie. You see here heavy rain, a lot of lightning, maybe some hail mixed in there, and some wind threats for sure. But we'll continue there watching that. Let me get back on over now. Again, we'll zoom back toward this area here, west central Georgia. I mean, I don't think I could even count all these polygons because we have the others in the other parts of the country. So I can't just get a total. I might try, but they're just dropping to one now for Clay Quitman and Henry. So we're down to one warning now in our covered area. Granted, we have another storm there, Coleman, that could be trying to get us out together there southwest of Cuthbert. But as you see here, we're watching things. I mean, there's so many warnings. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, I guess. About 10 warnings or so in play here as we're getting there. West Central Georgia, you don't generally see this many thunderstorm warnings here in play as we're watching things in the Doppler. Again, though, in North Florida, I mean, in our area, we've covered quite a few counties here, from Liberty and Franklin all the way to Levy, Marion, and Flagler. We do not have one shower showing up on the Doppler here, and yet things, you just never know what's going to happen here with the threat. That slight risk is going to be taken out here, Florida, I would think. In that 9 o'clock update, we'll be maybe still seeing that toward Alabama, maybe some other South Georgia counties, but it may just go down to marginal even. But we'll continue to watch things. Again, though, the models aren't picking up on stuff in North Florida. It would seem hard to get that action to develop down here. We'll just continue here to update you, though, on what's going on. I know we have another threat here tomorrow as we're looking toward parts of the Northeast for some severe weather potential. That'll be something that's going to be watched there. We're talking, I know about Pittsburgh and Rochester, New York, Watertown, Binghamton, even a tornado risk up there. A wind risk, though, is what's driving an enhanced risk for that area. Even a slight risk here towards St. Louis and Kansas City. Just looking behind the scenes, by the way. Just looking at some SBC maps, but interesting to see. And then in day 3, a marginal risk further to the south toward Chattanooga and Raleigh and areas around Charleston, South Carolina. So just kind of interesting to see that. Even Charleston, I think, well, no, not West Virginia, just going back to the map, they're just out of it, but Roanoke, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia Beach, all under that. So anyway, that's a lower risk on Friday, but we'll continue here to watch things. A storm here around Dawson, that accident, not really that impressive, but you're seeing threat continue here with the warning. Right now, I'm going to check power outage mapping. Let me check this. We have really seen an increase in Wisconsin, so let's go ahead and pop this up. I've been watching those numbers. We've seen high numbers in Ohio, which I might say, I mean, that's 2 days ago, and they're still lingering on here. We'll go to that in a moment, and Florida, Georgia as well, but poweroutage.us is the source, and you can see here, Brown County, that's toward Green Bay. That's a lot of people in the dark right now, 19,153 customers. You see off toward the west, some of these counties here. You saw Portage County, there are about 8,000 customers in the dark. Marquette County, over 2,000. Columbia County there, and Wisconsin, about 4,000. Juneau County, 3,000 customers in the dark. So it's kind of interesting to see that little swath there. Definitely a lot for Brown County there toward Green Bay. So definitely got, I hope everybody finds a way there to stay safe with outages like that. And then as we go ahead and zoom out to the broad view, Ohio's still outpassing, is surpassing, I guess you could say, outpacing areas there in Wisconsin. And this is looking back from 2 days ago, all the outages we had there from the storm, and that ended up moving through our area. Crazily enough, I mean, this is kind of bizarre. The path it took, that weather system was a derecho up there. It wasn't a derecho technically down here. Didn't meet the criteria with the strong enough gusts, things like that. But up there it was, and this is from, I mean, we're still seeing not many people in the dark, and hot temperatures like that, not great, not a good combination there toward Ohio. You see Wisconsin over 100,000, Indiana still some folks in the dark. You see Michigan, there's your power outages there. In Georgia, we have 21,000 customers. So Georgia, where we see the bulk of the warnings here. Harris County, Meriwether County, over there as you look toward Fayette County, Pike County, there Butts County, Monroe, Taylor, Georgia, Macon, Peach, Jones County toward our area, though. You don't see any equipment or Randolph right now. You see Lee and Doherty and Calhoun. We're not really seeing anything, so that's really good news. And then toward Florida, I mean, it might be outages here because stuff down toward West Central Florida. Might not be people in the dark there, but look down there real quick. There's a few, but you see Sarasota County, but in our area, there's really none here. I mean, sometimes when you get the heat like this, that could actually be an issue. I know many years, they're probably going back 20 years or so, there was a blackout in Jacksonville. Power was out for a pretty good period there. So just got to always be careful there. Make sure you're staying cool the best you can. And hopefully things don't result in some type of situation like that. But again, we're going to continue to watch here the weather situation. Let me go ahead and go back. Again, do have a storm. It looks like it's pulsing up a little bit again, actually. there. With the latest scan, you see it intensifying a bit there as we get toward Dawson. They're in parts of our area there toward Terrell County. The other warning gone away. This warning's still on the board. You see all these warnings further up. You know, even seen a warning in New York. Let's look at this one real quick. This is some rogue accident out there toward western New York. Warning there east of Buffalo for perspective. And then again, a tornado warning. The only one now. We had many of them earlier. Tweeted about 6 o'clock Eastern, a little after that, somewhere in there. Of all the tornado warnings on the board here toward Wisconsin and a couple in Iowa. Right now, just one, but still have quite a few thunderstorm warnings. You see Madison there. You see these warnings further up. And quite a few wind damage reports toward Green Bay. 20-inch branches down there in Brown County. Multiple trees snapped there toward the west, and trees and power lines down there too. So at least cooler air is coming into that viewpoint. But look at all this hot air with the power rises in play in Ohio. That's not a good combination. We're going to go ahead and zoom back on out here. Looking here at some of our map, and heat index values still up there. Over 100, I mean, and they're now telling us here they're going to issue a new severe thunderstorm warning in Alabama for parts of Henrydale and Coffee counties. I mean, you see all these high heat index values there in play, and environment there a little more prime, and the accent's pushing that way. And just looking at the thermometer, we have dropped below 90 degrees here. We're down to 88 now, looks like. Just kind of looking at my thermometer, 88. It might be fluctuating between 88 and 89 there with the decimals and the kind of rounding up. But again, gonna continue to watch. You see a new warning in Alabama. We're still watching things in Georgia with this one area here. You see Dawson, Sasser, Brownwood there. Again, we're watching things. We're kind of just seeing what they're going to do with this and see if they extend this out for a little while longer or not. I know we've been on for a pretty good while for the lack of coverage in terms of the convection, but a lot to talk about here with the heat threat. Going to go ahead and look at some different things behind the scenes here in the Weather Center. We are going to put our heat information up. Granted, this could get shifted around, so it's a little misleading sometimes, but I do have our heat information up in our warning and watch and advisory layer. You do see here that threat still continuing, but really the whole area has got to be on guard. Drink plenty of water here as we look ahead in the timeline. A heat advisory is in play as we look ahead. Not just these areas in the orange is shading, but we have to watch out. Maybe an excessive heat warning gets issued at some point here for parts of the area, and that really escalates our concern, and we'll have to at least, I did it last year, we'll see if we need to this year, might turn the logo red for that to kind of enhance that coverage, enhance at least the overall thought of that heat. If we get to that type of level where heat danger rises even further, I mean, excessive heat warning, the highest they can go at the Weather Service offices there, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, so we'll watch out Tampa as well for Levy. But again, continuing to watch here. They are going to extend this warning now because they have started to see that re-intensification. They're now telling us that here. Kelly Gotzi here in the chat session saying they're going to need an extension of the severe thunderstorm warning in Terrell County. The storm is maintaining its intensity, so we're going to go ahead and see that pop up here soon. It had kind of weakened down some, but yeah, definitely velocity is ticking back up here. Not really moving too much either, so let's see how much rain's falling. Well, it's interesting. Let's go ahead and put up storm total. Not really showing the rain, but definitely going to start to see this add on up some, maybe some pond in the water on roadways, things like that here. As we look ahead in toward the timeline here toward Terrell County, as we're going to get a new warning popping up here soon. Again, you have some greens and reds with some stronger winds. We have 39 miles an hour. We have 27 and about 16 as we look here in storm relatives. So winds at least 40, 50 or so on radar, and then we can't completely run a gust of 60. So they're going to issue that new warning. It does look pretty good there, even compared to what it did a little while ago. And still got to watch that storm there. Look off toward areas there in southwestern Randolph County here. But the one further east, definitely the more intense one. You may have some small hail mixing in there around State Route 520 there. I said toward State Road 55 there on Dawson. And that's even picking up a little bit further. That's actually some rotation, I would say, or a downburst signature. I mean, you can almost make an argument that's a little bit of really weak rotation there really weak rotation around US 82, but and there's this warning out. Wow, I don't hopefully think we're going to have to be on the air this long, but it is just this warning out because the movement hadn't been all that fast. It goes all the way out to 9:45 now for parts of Clay and Georgia, Quitman, Randolph, and Terrell. So that is a very long fuse warning here for these areas. So what I think I'm going to do here, we'll stay on a few more minutes, maybe closer to 8:30, and depending on the trends, I might wrap it up then just to kind of let you guys know where the new warning is, things like that, and then if we have more warnings, we'll post them and or come on, depending on the overall threat level. But me talking about a thunderstorm warning for the next hour and 20 minutes here probably wouldn't do that much good, to be quite honest here. In this type of situation, it's not that type of scenario necessarily, but that gets us all the way to the Alabama border as we're watching things. You can see here, obviously, if we were to get something like a tornado warning, we would jump back on immediately. We always do that. That's our priority. We've covered every single one of them that's moved through our Tallahassee and Jacksonville, and I guess you could call it Tampa County there. But maybe since we've been doing these formal updates and things like that, as we get back there to late 2019, every one of those tornado warning storms to move through our covered areas. So I know they're telling us now here in the chat that into the Alabama area, they're seeing some increase in velocities. Those are definitely impressive there. I know seeing some of that yesterday on our modes. The velocity is definitely increasing in Alabama, though. Coffee, Dale, and Henry counties here, 40 to 45 knots there near the Fort Rucker radar. So definitely see some brighter colors there up to the north there as we get toward parts of Barber County. And then as we get there north of Headland, Dale, Henry, and Coffee warning in play. Just continuing to watch all of that. But this new warning here for northern Clay and Georgia, as well as Randolph, Quitman, and Terrell, southwestern parts there of Terrell and northern Clay to be specific. But then as we get more Randolph and Quitman there included, as most of those counties there included in terms of the portions. But the severe thunderstorm located over Dawson. We have Fort Gaines, Dawson, Cuthbert, Georgetown, Selby, Wire Bridge, Walter F. George Lake, Stanley Store, Carnegie, Watson Crossroads, Ricks Place, over toward Dawson Municipal Airport, Hatcher, Morris, and Jones Crossing. Some of those areas, locations impacted. Could have some tree damage. We'll just have to wait and see. It seems like it's ramping up a little bit there near Dawson. Right there, I mean, that's some weak rotation as we get closer toward State Route 520. Nothing overwhelming, no. Nothing overwhelming, but a little bit of weak rotation. I might check our other radar here just to see what's going on, actually, because I want to make sure we don't have anything that says up differently. Metascope sometimes will show it a little bit differently. Here we have a couple of different modes between velocity and storm relative velocity that we can jump over to on there at source now. So I'll see what we got here and kind of pop that up for you guys at home as we continue with this live coverage here. Again, it's 8:28 on this Wednesday. We thought we'd have some storms developing, but the coverage we weren't sure about, and it's generally they've stayed to the north of most of our area. I mean, you saw it there. I mean, things are always staying toward the north with everything in terms of that spatial coverage. But let me go ahead and I'm getting the radar set up right now here. That full Rucker view, I know. Just trying to make sure we get you guys the correct vantage point here. We're getting new information in. Interesting. Okay, we'll go to that in just a moment. But looks like they visited a thunderstorm watch now toward parts of Alabama till 3 a.m. I don't think, as of now, I'm just seeing it come from the chat. It looks like it's not for our area. So that's interesting, though, to see. Just off toward the west here. But I'm just trying to get you guys the latest, popping some different things up. But, you know, we're not seeing that rotation really on our other mode. It's tricky, and it seems like it might have broadened on this a little bit too, but you can see here around Dawson we have some greens and reds, but that's not very impressive, so that's good. Just want to make sure though, that's actually storm relative. Let me check super reds if there's any more impressive. There are some stronger winds. That's not really sun rotation though. As we get a super red, you see 40, and that's not much. So sometimes the different color tables can give you a different appearance, and going between them, I really don't think there's too much there in terms of rotation. You just never know. You kind of have to look at them because sometimes one look can be a little more deceiving than the other. But I've seen it in severe weather coverage over the years, different TV stations. You look at one color table looks like one thing, another color table you could think is something different. And I know color tables we used on these, these are ones we've been using for a while on the different modes, and they're really helpful to kind of look at. If we really had stronger rotation there, you'd be able to see that. But anyway, again, continuing here at a watch, looks like they have issued that watch now. So let me go ahead and get this set on up here. Do we have it in the system? It has come out now. Kind of what I was thinking, looking at some of our model guidance and all this development. They did put out this watch here now in this pink until 3 a.m. And that's Eastern. They put an Eastern in here. It's actually going to be Central, but it's just the way things work sometimes there in the computers. But that would go until 2 a.m. Central Time here for southern parts of Alabama, and really getting to central Alabama as well. So that threat there becoming more of a bigger deal towards the areas there just north of Dothan. And you saw Ozark in there with the warning right now, and just all that development possibly there, kind of pushing there closer at least toward Montgomery, and you see a warning north of Auburn. So they don't have to deal having to deal with that here. So you see our little areas popping on up a little bit. The warning's just for the storm near Dawson, but that other storm is really meeting severe criteria now, and they could update this text even and say we have 2 severe thunderstorms within this potentially, based on that hail indicator at least. Generally does a pretty good job with that. I mean, you never know. Velocity not quite as impressive on that one, but you see near Coleman there. You also see near Dawson. That's where we have the more impressive velocity right around Dawson right now in Terrell County. So we're continuing to watch that again. We're seeing that in play here for another hour and 15 minutes. That's a very long fused warning. So at this point, we don't, by the way, have any tornado warnings anywhere in the country at this moment either, but just some nasty weather in Wisconsin there. I'll be watching further on there, if even towards southeastern Wisconsin later on. But at this point, we're going to wrap it up, I think. We have this warning for another hour and 15 minutes. If we need to come back on, we will. If we get more warnings, we'll at least post about them here. Just be really careful on Dawson. This is really hanging around there. Dawson, right now, still, Terrell County is getting this accident. It's been kind of in that vicinity. I've been skipping radars, but right over Dawson right now there, you see the rain already half inch there pretty quick. Going to get up there even more. I mean, some storm total amounts getting closer to an inch already. In toward Dawson there in Terrell County there. I know, grocery store there. I mean, you have some different things in toward that area. Just got to be careful. In toward Terrell County, you see Coleman here. Also a stronger storm there. But the wind pattern would be a little more concerning toward Dawson. Nothing overwhelming. And that's why we're going to wrap it up at this point. So that's the warning in place. The only one in our area. It's a pretty big area spatially. And we'll keep you updated if we need to with the more cut-ins, coverage, and or just post about any new warnings that get issued. If we don't get new warnings, we may not have to really do too much more in terms of this. But we'll be keeping an eye on things here from the Weather Center. I'll leave you with a look at all the different platforms we're on. Of course, you can watch YouTube. You can search for meteorologist Casey Cloud. You can also watch on Roku as well on those Roku devices. In these type of situations, just search for meteorologist Casey Cloud on there and watch on your Roku TV, something like that. So different platforms. You have Twitch, just search meteorologist Casey Cloud, Twitter at Cloud Casey there, and Casey Cloud WX on Facebook, and Cloud Weather on Facebook as well. You can watch, and then Cloud_WX on Twitter for those auto alerts coming out. You can read the text of the warnings, the updated alerts there for all those warnings that get issued, even in southern Alabama there. That are within that National Weather Service in Tallahassee jurisdiction and National Weather Service in Jacksonville jurisdiction. For now, thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. Severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect until 9:45 here in South Georgia for parts of Clay, Quitman, Randolph, and Terrell counties. Just keep in mind that thunder, when you hear thunder roar, go indoors, and with these stronger wind producers, make sure you are really inside and away from those windows.